Welcome to another episode of Reil Reviews, and we have just played a game of Flamecraft, so now we're going to be discussing our thoughts on this game. So, Matt, when and or how often would you see this game hitting the table?
Well, I'm going to tell it to you this way. I got this game last month on my birthday, and it's hit the table 3 times so far.
Okay.
So it's a lighter game. I think it's actually quite approachable from a lot of people, even though there's a lot going on the boards. Something that really does help is that all of the dragons do the same thing. So once you learn that a bread dragon does what a bread dragon does, it lets you draw a card. That's really all there is to it. And then you're really just going to a location, collecting resources, or spending your resources for points. It's a simple enough game to teach to people, so yeah, I can see it hitting the table, on most game nights, honestly, because it's a fun game, it's attractive art, wide array of players. There's some decent variability with the different locations that'll end up coming up, and yeah, I can see it coming to the table pretty much on any standard games night.
Okay. I think for me, the first thing that comes to mind is this would be a good game. I think when I go home for holidays and stuff like that, we would play a lot of games with my nieces and nephews. They're anywhere from like 10 to early 20s type of age kind of range. This is the type of game I think I would bring to that sort of an event, because I think like you say, there's a lot going on, but it's not so complicated they're going to be put off by it. So it'd be easy to teach. And it's the type of game I think they'd enjoy. So I think for me, this has the feel of a good family game. Probably not for super small children, but for older children. And I think it's a good audience where this is a game you could play with them.
And I think there's enough strategy involved in it as well that like your more hobbyist board gamers aren't going to get super bored of it right away. Like they'll still.
It's got a good crossover, right? It's got a good crossover, so you could kind of incorporate people from all gaming backgrounds in it. So that's probably where I'd be pulling it out, is when I have a good mix of that. So
okay,
all right. So in terms of the theme, so how much did you feel like you lived in this town?
I think the art really makes this theme. I think it's a fun little town to live in. It's a fun little world to kind of immerse yourself in. The names of all the places are little puns. You have Draco Bell here. You have Guilty Treasures, right? And like critical roles. If you're a gamer, you probably know about critical hits and critical misses on your dice roll for D&D. Like it's all like little puns and stuff. The dragon art is super cute. You can see them all actually working on their stuff, and the artwork's actually unique on the dragons, which I think adds a good touch to it. Like it's cool to look at the board and see, there's this town that's building and growing all around it. I think the theme's good in this game. I really enjoy it.
Okay. I really enjoy the game, and I like a lot of elements of it. It doesn't feel as immersive to me, because I think you could easily reskin it in 1,000 different ways and it would have a similar feel.
Yeah.
But not to say it's not enjoyable, but I think immersion wasn't the strong point for me.
I think, like, as far as like, you could reskin it, but I think the skin that they chose, they chose a really good job of pushing that skin too, right?
Yeah. And then how the economy works, it doesn't necessarily feel like you're going to shops and trading.
Yeah,
right.
I think the one thing I mentioned before we started playing is like you go to the shops and you get goods.
You don't hand out stuff for free.
You don't really pay for them. You just get some goods from people. Yeah, and it's maybe it's just a really friendly world.
So let's talk about the mechanics. So are there any elements of the mechanics that stand out to you in this game, good or bad?
One thing that stands out to me is the enchantment function. So, and why I pick this one is when you go to a place to gather, you're gathering the resources that are listed. So the more enchantments you have, the more you get from going and gathering in that place. And also when you gather, that's when you get to place new dragons down, right? So when you're looking at like a place like this, which is a new location that's come down, it's going to have a really good ability, but it has no enchantments on it, and it has no dragons at it. So I don't get to gather very much when I go here to start, right? So it's kind of like this weird feeling where it's like, well, I don't really want to go gather here because there's nothing to gather from, but I also don't really want to go enchant here because there's no dragons that I get to use. So there's this really weird mechanic, and I can't tell yet if I really like it or really don't like it.
Okay.
But it feels like like this place here became one of our hot spots. We put 3 enchantments down on it, and we had 3 dragons at it, and we went here a lot because you get more resources. Therefore, you can spend more resources. You can activate more dragons. This is just a better place a lot of the times, right? But then you have this place, which actually has a really good ability that you kind of end up leaving out.
Well, and that actually happened. There's a couple times I kind of wanted to go to that one, but I needed a dragon to trigger.
Exactly.
For my turn.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like you feel like you're missing out if you aren't placing a dragon as part of your gather action. So if you haven't drawn a dragon on your previous round, you're not going to go to a new place, right?
Yeah.
I do feel though that aspect, that mechanic, kind of changes from game to game a little bit because it does also depend on what dragons are going out.
Yeah.
You know, more bred dragons in the world means you're drawing more dragon cards, right? Even more enchantments that have +1 dragon means you're drawing more dragon cards. So you may have a hand flush of dragon cards when you want to go to new places and place your dragons. But yeah,
I think that kind of ties into what I wanted to say about it, because I think the thing I really liked was how modular it is, how well the modular elements of the game work together. So like you say, in this game, we're really focused on this shop and this shop, really, because they were the ones that paid off the best. But the way it's designed and how the cards come out, how the enchantments roll out, is gonna. It's not like this is a better store than that store, right?
True.
Right.
Yeah,
so
very true.
Yeah. So it's not like they're so the game balance and how well the modular components work together, I think works out really, really well. So I think that's a really strong mechanical element to this game.
Yeah.
It's balanced. It's unbalanced this game because of this how these stores played out. But next game, I can't think this store is going to be ahead of the other stores.
Yeah, and that was really just because of the way you and I ended up.
It's just how we ended up setting up the game. Yeah.
This was my starting hand. It made sense to go here, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to play this guy here so I could gain a fancy dragon, right? Yeah.
Okay. And you've already kind of answered the next question a little bit, but in terms of aesthetics, game quality, and components, what's your ranking on this game?
Yeah, I think the art makes it. Like
Yeah.
the art is so good and cute in this game. It's very attractive artwork, and every one of these little dragons is very cute, and it's just an art style that really appeals to me. And I love the fact that like all the cards are unique art. The tokens are tokens; they're little pieces of cardboard, but they're nice, bright colors. They're very distinctive. You don't have any trouble telling them apart. I think my one maybe negative component would be these little trackers here. They are unique, but sometimes the colors just blend a little bit with the board, is what I was finding. But
Okay.
I think component quality is fine. Like there's nothing I have that I would say wrong. The cards are good quality and
Yeah. And I would definitely a couple things on top of that. So artwork, yes, absolutely. This game is a good sell. Just looking at it, and that's one of the reasons I thought of this as a game I would like to kind of show to my nieces and nephews and stuff, because I think they would just absolutely love the art. They would play it just for that, right? The other component I really like, I do like this mat, this board. So I think with a board this long and narrow, it's just much more convenient to have a rollout mat like this as opposed to something foldable in cardboard. But I really like that element of it.
And for those interested, it does fit in the box. This is how the game comes with this board.
Yeah. It's not like a Kickstarter bonus or anything like that. So I think that's a really good element. Otherwise, it's fairly... Component quality is fairly standard for any game in terms of like how well the cards are built and the tokens and everything. But again, the artwork is kind of, I think... Oh, well, I do like these little dragons.
What about the dragon meeples?
The player tokens, I think, are
dragon
fantastic.
meeples are cool.
Yeah, I think it's a good design for them. So a lot of good art and design in this. Without going too overboard and making the game really expensive with fancy components that you don't really need.
Where's the other ones? I'm searching.
Okay, no problem.
There they are. I'm putting up the army.
Okay, sounds good. There's our army of dragons.
I hope this actually shows on the camera.
Okay. Do you have any other comments you'd like to put on this game? How was your overall gaming experience? Would you recommend people buy this game?
I think it's a nice light game. Like it's not gonna be like the big heavy that you're gonna pull out for like for your weekend gaming. I want to sit and play a 3-hour game, right? But I think it has good replayability. It's open to a lot of different people. The art is really nice. The game is solid. It's a good game.
Yeah.
I like playing it. I'll play it again. Yeah.
Okay. And I agree. It's a good one to have around. I think it's one that would come off the shelf quite a bit. A lot of replayability. Like you say, like I'm a big heavy game guy, like a big Twilight Imperium guy. But those are games that are hard to get out. Like you play those, if you're lucky, every couple of months or a few months.
Yeah.
This is one that's easy. You have guests over. You want something that's not too heavy and fun, And there's a lot of we were talking a lot during the game. Of course, we're on camera, but I think it's a game where you can chat and play, right?
Yeah.
There's which often is actually what I want in a game. So sometimes you have some friends over, you want something light, something you can talk about your day while you're playing and stuff like that. I think this is a good game for that.
We took our turns pretty quick when we're playing that. You will find a little bit of analysis paralysis in this game, right? There are a lot of decisions that you can make.
Yeah.
At the end of the game, there's 12 different locations, and they will all give you a different benefit if you go to them. So you can get a little bit stuck and a little bit lost. But part of that's also mitigated by the enchantments, and it's like, you can only put this in a red location. Yeah. So if these are the resources you have, and you're building this, now there's only 2 locations on the board that you can really look at.
And an interesting note, I had watched, before playing this, I had watched a How to Play by the publisher, and that's specifically, he said they were originally going to do, or wanted to do, all unique dragons.
Yeah.
And the reason they didn't do that was because of that reason. They're like, well, you can't just have someone reading every card, every turn, to see what everyone does.
Yeah.
So they said, we'll have 6 different dragons,
much, right?
You just need to learn those 6.
Yeah, and actually, on that point, something I mentioned off camera was something that could be cool for this game. Definitely not needed, but something that could be cool would be a different set of dragons. So all of your iron dragons always do the same thing, but you could actually put in like a substitute set. So instead of like the whatever color, the brown back dragons, you had like a gold back dragons, and they were a little bit more complicated with different abilities, but still keep that in mind where all the iron dragons in that set would all have the same ability.
Yeah, and that's something you could probably add as an easy, cheap expansion sort of a thing if you wanted to. So, all right, well, that's all I have to say about this. So thank you very much for joining us. I hope you have some real good games.
Alrighty.